What is up, everybody? This is your boy Dedrian Cologne from City of Wrestling, and this is my review for the March 13th episode of AEW Dynamite Big Business. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notification so that way you are notified when the City of Wrestling drops its latest content. Follow me, Dedrian_180 on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Fanbase, and you can follow me on Facebook. Man, I enjoyed this episode of AEW Dynamite. It felt like I was watching the first episode of AEW Dynamite. And what I mean by that, the energy, the excitement, the crowd interaction, from the opening of the shot of the Boston Bridge to Renee Paquette in the parking lot to the ending of Dynamite with Willow. And of course, this episode of Dynamite was centered around one Mercedes Mone. Man, this was a fun show to watch. The energy, like I said, the energy, the excitement, the match quality, the storytelling, the story progression, um, just was fun, man. This was a fun episode of Dynamite, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where AEW goes forward and where the AEW women's division goes forward after this, because there's just a lot of momentum with AEW. This episode, after watching it, and let me phrase it, not so much after watching it, but even after Mercedes Moné debuted, it just felt like this episode, you could say, somewhat solidified that there is a form of balance in AEW with the men and the women going forward. It doesn't sense, for me, it doesn't sense, I don't sense there's an imbalance, like there's more emphasis on the men and not the women. There's like this equal balance of, focus on the men and the women, and they complement each other. Like, I just see that after this episode, and not only this episode, but even going back to the Continental Classic, you just see there's just been this momentum in the women's division, and it's just now there's this momentum in the men's division, and it's just everything is just coming together. And man, this is, if you're an AEW fan, this is a special time to watch AEW, to be a fan of AEW, to attend AEW, just witness what they're going to potentially accomplish. And mind you, we still haven't gone to the whole thing as far as their TV rights deal and all that. But man, this was a fun show. And I got to start it off right now with the five things that really stood out in this episode. Ugh, man, there's no beating around the bush. Mercedes Moné is all elite. Man, that was one of the most memorable debuts in AEW history. I think for me, it was the greatest debut for a women's wrestler in AEW history. As far as debuts total, man, it's got to be, man, you got Moxley, you got Punk, you got Cole and Bryan, and then her. It has to be in the top five. It has to be in the top five. But man, like I said, the way this show started, Renee opens up in the back. You get a shot of Boston and a bridge in Boston. Cuts to Renee Paquette. She's like, "It's big business." It was like a white and black Mercedes pulls up. The camera pans left. You get a shot of the car door. The car door opens, and before the person can get out, they cut right back into the arena. I thought that was so good, man, so good. Like, oh, we're gonna see. Oh, it cuts back, and man, oh man, music hits. She's got brand new music, and this music, I gotta tell you, this music is catchy as hell. The chorus. They sang it when she debuted. They sang it when she came out at the end to help Willow. The CEO chants are probably going to be let me phrase that, not probably, is going to be the next biggest chant in AEW. the crowd really caught on. And what I thought was really cool was when the music hit and they played and everything, in the hook right away was CEO, CEO. It really got the crowd chanting CEO, CEO. Then when the name graphic switched from CEO to Mercedes Moné, the reaction, she comes out, and as she's heading to the ring, you just have the crowd chanting CEO, CEO, CEO. And you could say the rest is history because, man, this was loud. And granted, people are like, well, it's her hometown and this. And I know many people are probably going to compare this to CM Punk because he debuted in his hometown and this, and that. Um, you could make that comparison, but for me, it's kind of apples to oranges. Um, More so because of just Punk's a different type of personality, Mercedes a different type of personality. Um, as far as characters and in wrestling, not outside the ring. That's something totally different. Not going to get into that, but they're different personalities, and just she just has a vibe, and that vibe was you felt that vibe as she came into the ring. The crowd just it was just a give and take. She mentioned, "Thank you for having my back the past 2 years. You're the reason I'm here." Then there's loud CEO chants. She mentions wrestling has changed and saved my life. Her hopes of being in wrestling, and this is a place to dream. And she gives credit to Eddie Guerrero, which I always thought was really cool. She did it in WWE, she did it here, and that's really cool because she's showing um, just homage of what inspired her. And you can tell with this promo that we're this isn't Sasha Banks from WWE. This is Mercedes Moné, the wrestling fan, who has become a wrestler. That's what we're getting here. This is some authentic stuff that we probably wouldn't have gotten in WWE. And with the new regime, we probably would have got something close to it, maybe. Um, but then again, this is a new environment, new company. There's fresh opponents so this is a brand new canvas. So this is one of the cool things about wrestlers going to different promotions and going around. You freshen up just your presentation and everything. And this is beyond fresh, man. This is new. Um, she mentions, you want to know why I'm here. And she mentions, I need to be here. And this is something that really stuck out to me. AEW is the place where this revolution will be global. Now, mind you, she was a part of the women's revolution in WWE with Becky, Charlotte, Bailey, Alexa Bliss. I'm trying to think of who else. You could throw in Liv Morgan, Naomi. Um, oh my God, Tamina. There you go, man. I've saw her face and couldn't remember her name. Forgive me. She was part of that revolution that really brought women's wrestling to the forefront and brought it to where it is in WWE. And mentioning that AEW is the place where this revolution will be global. That's something really, um, really cool. I don't see it as a shot to WWE. I know some tribalists and all these petty people. Ooh, that's a shot at WWE. It's not a shot at WWE. AEW works with other promotions. Hello, it makes sense for her to say that. And I do see that her saying that is like, okay, this is a nod, wink, wink. We're gonna see women's wrestlers from CMLL. We could see women's wrestlers in AAA coming. Stardom definitely because the president of Stardom was there, and oh my God, I can't remember what her name was. One of the Stardom wrestlers were there. Um, Give me 1 second. Oh man, what was her name? Uh, you had Mina Shirakawa. She was there for the ROH tapings, which is really cool. So you have that. uh, Rev Pro. Um, the sky's the limit for no point intended because that's I believe that was her like old interesting name for her song. But the sky is the limit for this revolution that we're witnessing taking place, and to see the men's division clicking, but now with the women's division really clicking, and this just takes the women's division to another level. Um, it feels like with what's been transpiring with the women's division that they're really building a foundation of storytelling for the women and making things logical. Like, okay, you're wrestling because of this. You're wrestling because of this. Before in AEW, you had a few women's matches that said that, but now it's thing a lot of these women wrestlers in the last 2 months, even before that, you could go back to All In. There's a story that's behind all these women. So it's like, okay, we see there with where this is going, and it's like their story conflicts with their story. Boom, now we got a match. So they're really building that foundation, and I'm it's hard for me not to think like who else in the wrestling world outside of AEW, whether it's WWE, Impact, what other women's wrestlers saw this and are just like, hmm, okay, let me see how this plays out. Before Mercedes, AEW, yeah, it's a pretty nice division, but now after tonight, let me see how this plays out. Do I want to, TNA had to cross the line, or you know, um, go to WWE or what have you. It's like, let me go see how it is in Elite. Let me see these Elite wrestlers. Nod, wink, wink. Um, that's going to be interesting from now till the end of the year. How this shapes up and how this plays out, because it's going to be there's a whole new ball game for this AEW Women's Division and AEW. Like there's just um, a different vibe with this company after tonight, and you sense it, you feel it. She mentions after she mentioned, AEW is the place where this revolution will be global. I can't wait to tear it up. Welcome your new CEO. When she did that, I'm like, oh, we are definitely getting a Britt Breaker Mercedes Mone match, and that is going to be a fun match. That is going to be fun. Um, Later on, we had a video package of Rio and Willow hyping up their main event match, which I thought was really cool. You debut Mercedes, then you announce, yeah, Willow and Rio are main eventing. That was really cool. I really thought that was a shift. Of course, it was a shift for tonight's show, but I just thought that was sending a message like, hey, the women are going to mean something in the main event. And mind you, the women have been main eventing Rampages for, man, close to half of 2023. Like they were main eventing Rampages. And then, you had, stellar matches on Collision. You've had stellar matches on Dynamite again, going back to as far as All In. Now it's like, okay, we're going to see some really stellar matches on Dynamite. We're going to see some stellar matches on Collision. And it's not so much stellar matches, but they're going to mean something. There's going to be stakes, and they're going to be put in the high position. And that's going to be really cool, because that's something that a lot of us as wrestling fans have been waiting for, but also it's fresh and new because it's like, okay, now it's happening. Okay, cool. We know the men's roster is deep. Like, man, it is beyond deep. But now the women's roster, which is also deep, now they're getting their time to shine. And it's like, okay, this is going to be really fun. Then we get, which we rarely see this in AEW, but they've been doing this a lot lately since the Continental Classic. We get a backstage shot of Rio, and then Mercedes Moné walks up, and she's like, I can't wait to see your match. And then she walks away, and you see Rio like, oh my God, Thought that was really cool. Post match, after Willow defeated Rio, lights goes out. Julie Hart and Sky Blue appear. Julie Hart's on the ramp. Sky Blue attacks Willow from behind. They start beating her up. Julie Hart, she has a TBS title belt and she's about to hit Willow. Music hits. Mercedes Moné changes her outfit. She heads down to the ring. She hits the bankrupt on Julia Hart. She stands in the ring. Willow raises her hand. And man, I thought this was really cool. Willow says, "Welcome back." That's really cool. Crowd starts chanting, CEO, CEO, loud CEO chants. She walks around the ring, and that was the end of the show. But man, Mercedes Moné being all elite, man, this was a fun show. Man, she's bringing excitement, enthusiasm, just this interest and intrigue in the women's division in AEW. And it coincides with the interest and intrigue that we already have with Okada and Ospreay. The interest and intrigue of, okay, we know Sting is retired. How is AEW going to pivot from him being retired? Where are they going to go? It's a fun time to be an AEW wrestling fan. If you're an AEW fan, you're loving it, and if you're a pro wrestling fan, it's a fun time, man. But man, those CEO chants, that is going to be, whew, man, that's going to be very popular in AEW and future AEW shows. Moving on. Next week, it was announced we got Okada and Eddie Kingston for the Continental Championship next week. This match between Okada, the Young Bucks, Pac, and Penta, man, this was a fun match. Man, Okada is just, he's this silent ace where he just, he smiles, but man, he's got this killer instinct. I like this pairing. This is again, another refreshing look at AEW. The Young Bucks shed a lot of the, not that it's a bad thing, but they shed a lot of the old elite that first started with AEW, and that elite had a lot of Bullet Club type stuff, and a lot of those members from that Bullet Club era, from like 2018, a lot of them have moved on to change their gear and everything. But man, I like this. I like this. Eddie Kingston, Okada next week for the Continental Championship. That has to be the main event. If not, it's probably going to kick off Dynamite. But man, I'm looking forward to that match. They've already planted the seeds of why, we're getting this match. Okada joining the Elite, and the Young Bucks, telling Eddie Kingston, you need to dress better and dress code, blah blah blah. Going back to Revolution. It's there. I know some people could see it as like too soon. Man, it should be at, Dynasty, this, and that. Who's to say we don't get a rematch at Dynasty? Just saying. Or we could get a rematch at the ROH pay-per-view. Was it Supercard of Honor? Yeah, I believe that's the pay-per-view that's around WrestleMania weekend. So we could get that match at that time. So there's a lot where this can go. For me, it just feels like they're waiting for someone or something to be added into this feud with Eddie Kingston. Is it the Blackpool Combat Club kind of aligning with Kingston? It just feels like something is going to be added to this feud with Eddie Kingston and Okada, or Eddie Kingston and the Young Bucks versus, or Eddie Kingston and Pac versus the Elite, Young Bucks and Okada. Like, it just feels like there's going to be more people added to this, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Moving on, man, Deonna Purrazzo. I like this promo. I like the promos where they address what happened, but then they have like this cliffhanger, like, where is this gonna go? And not only a cliffhanger, but like a tease of so who's gonna be with them? I like that's one of my favorite things about AEW when they do that. In this promo they did it. Deonna Purrazzo, she mentions, Tony Storm, Mariah Ray, May, DDTing her on the ramp, and she's like, "You thought that was gonna stop me? No." She's like, "If this is a numbers game, I have no problem finding a partner next week or meeting you next week in Toronto." So it looks like we might get Tony Storm and Mariah Way versus Deonna Purrazzo and a partner to be named later. Me personally, I would not be surprised if it's Britt Baker. She's been more active on social media, which is one of the nod, wink, wink. She might be coming back, or actually that usually happens. But also, um, she's been on a lot of press lately, so it's like, okay, you get Britt Baker with Deonna Purrazzo. Okay, this is gonna be pretty cool. So man, we could get Deonna Purrazzo or Deonna Purrazzo and Britt Baker versus Tony Storm and Mariah May, which this makes sense, and I think this is something that I don't know if many people have paid attention to AEW in doing this, but I've noticed this, and a few other people on Twitter have noticed this. Shout out to Joe Pro. He mentioned this from In the Weeds on Fightful about Mercedes, that, man, it's pretty smart to put Mercedes in a tag match. And now if you look at the Deonna Purrazzo, Tony Storm, Mariah May feud, potentially putting Britt Baker in there makes sense because she's returning from injury. So it's good. It's smart because you don't put them in a situation where they have to be in a match a long time. They can take breaks. You bring them along slowly to get back into rhythm, which is what you want to do. And kudos to AEW for, if that's the plan with Britt Baker, that's smart. And also, if that's the plan for Mercedes Moné, that's pretty smart because you I don't want to say protect, but you give them a logical balance in the match where they're not trying to, you don't put them in a position to do too much, but you put them in a position to do enough and then get in that rhythm, and then, okay, it's all yours. Um, Man, the Acclaimed and Bullet Club Gold, they split. How do they did that? Again, me personally, if you follow me on Twitter and you follow City of Wrestling on Twitter, I've mentioned this. They need to unify the ROH six-man titles and the AW Trios titles, and please split the Acclaimed and the Bullet Club Gold up. It was a fun pairing for like a week or two, maybe. But now there's, it's almost like it's stagnant, like it's not regressing and it's not progressing. It's just there, and I'm I'm just glad they did this angle. A lot of people were voicing their, not so much their frustration, but just like, I'm just not feeling this. Like, a lot of people, they love the Acclaim, and a lot of people love Anthony Bowens. Like, a lot of people have been saying online that they really want to see him as a singles wrestler. Those of you who've watched his single work, man, he's a pretty solid worker. Um, there's a lot of people that are fans of Jay White and the Guns. So a lot of people are fans of these five guys, but they're not a fan of them being together. And I'm glad AEW just pivoted in this direction. Like, okay, let's get to the point already. Um, whew. So post match, Jay White, he defeated Darby Allin. They're about to freaking beat him up and everything. Jay White threw the belt at him. He was about to shake his hand, but he put the gun symbol to Darby Allin. The Acclaim come to the ring. They help Darby Allin out. Then, as they're helping him out, Billy Gunn, he confronts Jay White, and he's like, "Why are you doing this? Hey, this is nothing." Jay White grabs a chair, hits Billy Gunn. The Acclaim come in. They start brawling with the Gun Club. They attack them. Darby gets it back in the ring. They put the chair on Darby's ankle. Jay White, he grabs a baseball bat and hits the chair, which symbolizing that Darby Allin's going to be gone. Of course, Darby Allin is going on this insane uh, mission or journey to climb Mount Everest. I hope that guy stays safe. I hope he has a safe journey, and I hope nothing happens to him, and I hope he returns safe and healthy. Um, but outside of that, I'm glad they went this direction because now we can get a unification, which please they need it. Like, there's no need for two um, 6-man tag titles um, in AEW and ROH. Like, there's no need for it. And honestly, the ROH 6-man titles and the AEW 6-man titles, ROH I could see because it's a part of ROH. That makes sense. But with AEW, AEW really doesn't need um, the trios titles anymore. In all honesty, um, ever since they introduced the trios titles, which was cool when you had Death Triangle and the original Elite with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, it was cool. But after a while, it really just, just felt, slid down. Like it just really regressed. There wasn't a lot of teams that were healthy. And then also, it really hurt the tag team division, which it's like, we really like the AEW's tag division, but it's really not there anymore. Then moving on, it was announced that the AEW Tag Team Tournament bracket will be announced on AEW Rampage. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the bracket is going to look like, who's in the bracket, what teams are in there, and to see who could potentially be the new AEW Tag Team Champions. I'm all for that. Outside of those 5 things, I mean, Samoa Joe and Wardlow, that was a dope match. Alex Marvez meeting with the Elite and Okada telling them to sing Happy Birthday. It was kind of funny. I didn't care too, like, I shouldn't say I couldn't care too much for it. It was okay with me, but I know some people are like, why did they do it? It was just one of those segments that just filler, boom, move on. The Elite Pac, Penta, and Kenta match, that was a pretty fun match. Tony Schiavone with Ospreay and his promo, that was, again, this is another guy that's over. The crowd chanting Aussie, 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 bruv. It's cool with AEW. They're really starting to have like these new chants because you're introducing these new wrestlers with Ospreay and Mercedes Moné. So it's really cool going forward how this shapes out. Jay White, Darby Allin, pretty solid match. Kyle O'Reilly will face Brian Keith this Saturday on AEW Collision. His interview with Renee was interrupted by Roderick Strong, and they're really driving home the point that Kyle O'Reilly is doing this on his own. So there, again, that's a story being told because it's like you could tell towards the end of the interview, and he, has this look like, oh man, I got to do this on my own. Like he's second guessing, man, can I really do this on my own? Which you could kind of sense this is eventually going to lead to the Kingdom, the Undisputed Kingdom, helping Kyle O'Reilly regain his confidence. That's how I see it. Hook and Chris Jericho, they'll meet next week. Willow and Rio, that was a fun main event match, man. Go see that match. Like I said, the tag match between Chris Jericho and Hook versus the Gates of Agony. I don't know. Me personally, Jericho has been a tremendous wrestler and throughout the history of wrestling, his time wrestling. He's been a tremendous asset to AEW, but it just feels like right now in 2024, Chris Jericho, I don't know, it just he doesn't fit in a way. Maybe it's more than a way. Like he just doesn't fit. It's just there's this momentum and everything, and he doesn't fit. And as a commentator, maybe, I don't know. Actually, maybe as a manager and a mouthpiece, but just as a wrestler, it just doesn't. It doesn't correlate anymore for me. And it's not saying, oh my God, he's terrible. This is like, no, it happens. It's time. Um, and not saying time, you know, like that, but it's just as time goes on, you just get to that point where it's like, man, it doesn't fit with what AEW is doing. Um, Again, him being a mouthpiece and being a manager, that could actually work. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but maybe you should go back to cutting his hair short. The way he had it when he was doing the list and everything, like it just feels like he just needs to change things up. You could tell with the Lionheart gimmick, it's almost like he's going back to where he was, but it just feels like he just needs that change. Um, yeah. Other than that, outside of that match, this was a fun AEW Dynamite. I'm looking forward to Rampage and Collision. Looking forward to next week on Dynamite, man. This is, man, AEW has this momentum. They have this enthusiasm. They have this energy. Um, I said this about previous companies. I said this about TNA and other wrestling companies. What AEW is producing, this is a fantastic and outstanding complementary alternative to the WWE. Again, this is not, they compete in some ways, but mostly they don't compete. AEW right now is an outstanding and fantastic complementary alternative to the WWE. Um, when I'm, watching AEW ever since they changed the set for Dynamite, but just Rampage and Dynamite, I'm watching a completely different company, a completely different wrestling company tell stories the way they want to tell stories. That's not like WWE, which is fantastic because if a wrestling company is trying to tell stories like WWE, then it just comes off very bad and just cheesy. But man, this is fun. This was a fun AEW Dynamite episode. Let me know what you guys think as far as AEW Dynamite. What do you think of Mercedes Moné's um, debut? What did you think of Okada and Eddie Kingston? What did you think of Deonna Purrazzo? What did you think of the Acclaim and BC Gold splitting? The tag team bracket being announced on Rampage. Tell me what you guys thought of this episode in the comments below. Um, Man, this is fun. I had fun watching it. I'm probably gonna watch it again after I finish this review. But man, let me know what you guys think. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the notifications. That way you're notified when the City of Wrestling drops its latest content. And folks, with that, like I always say never in the world of professional wrestling. And there's never a dull moment in the world of professional wrestling. So with that, folks, I'll see you.